It's been super chilly out lately, but we're doing it, we're making it, warmer days are coming. But in the meantime, I've been making lots of recipes to keep me warm and cozy, and it's the perfect season for comfort food. This week I made a mushroom stroganoff, which was super delicious with lots of fresh herbs, some dried mushrooms, some star anise, and a whole bunch of shiitake mushrooms. After a while, the mushrooms and the onions should get nice and golden and crispy, and then I go ahead and add in all that lovely chopped garlic. And then after a minute or two, we're ready to go ahead and make our roux, which is going to be the thickening for the sauce. It's so important to season and flavor at every stage of the process. So before I add in my liquid, I bloom all the spices in the oils and then go ahead and pour in the broth so it gets nice and bubbly and thickens right up. And you know, we gotta add a little extra flavor by adding some soy sauce. And then the last couple ingredients, I add some Dijon mustard for a little bit of acidity. And of course, we gotta make the sauce nice and creamy with some soy milk. When I say depth of flavor, all of the different components really came together and had all these subtle layers, and the pasta was coated in that beautiful creamy sauce. So good. It's so important for me to have a nice hearty breakfast, or I end up getting kind of hangry for the rest of the morning. So this recipe is a really nice balanced meal and is inspired by a diner style omelet. I also took some inspiration from a recipe for chilla, which is a popular breakfast pancake made in some places in India. But in this version, I cook my fillings first and then make that eggy batter using chickpea flour, nutritional yeast, some turmeric, black pepper, and a little bit of spice from some cayenne. I use equal parts water to the flour, and I actually always like to add a little bouillon cube whenever I'm using water in a recipe, just to give that extra little flavor. As my filling was cooking, I took the opportunity to go ahead and make that egg batter. And honestly, I never really use specialized tools like whisks. I usually use a fork or chopsticks or whatever I have that I can use for as many things as possible, because doing dishes is not my strong suit. So once the oil was nice and hot, I went and poured in about half of the batter because it makes 2 omelets. And then I just smoothed it out, made a nice little circle so it would cook really evenly. And once the top stopped being so glossy, I went ahead and filled it up with my onions and broccoli mixture and topped it with some vegan mozzarella. Now, I wouldn't say that this compares to the taste of eggs, but it's so hearty and flavorful, and it really fills you up for the rest of your morning, so it's a great breakfast to have. Taking the time to slow down and cook for myself is a really integral part of my self-care routine, but sometimes we just don't have time for all that, so this is a perfect recipe for one of those times, and it only takes about 15 minutes. I start by pre-cooking some ramen noodles and in a pot frying up some shiitake mushrooms and garlic and also grating in some ginger. If you can't tell by now, I really love using bouillon cubes. It's such a quick and easy way to add some extra flavor to a dish. And then after about 5 minutes, your mushrooms should be cooked, and I used some frozen greens that I had and just added that in there with some extra soy sauce, some salt and pepper. The greens were super quick to cook since they were frozen and pre-cooked, so once that was all heated up, I went ahead and poured it over the noodles and got to digging in. Most of the time when I'm cooking, I'm really just trying to use up whatever vegetables I've forgotten about in my fridge. And this week, that was this once beautiful but still delicious head of cauliflower. For this recipe, I'm also using up some more of that chickpea flour that I made the omelet out of, and I start by chopping my cauliflower into little nuggets and then make the batter with some garlic powder, that flour, nutritional yeast, dill, salt and pepper, and a little bit of smoked paprika. For the wet part of the batter, I'm using some coconut oil and, of course, some more bouillon cubes. These are buffalo cauliflower wings, so after the batter is mostly mixed up, I also added in a 1/4 cup of buffalo sauce. And I just wanted to get all those clumps out and make sure that the batter was nice and smooth. Once all the cauliflower chunks were well coated, I went ahead and poured them out onto a baking sheet. As you spread them out, I just wanted to make sure that each little nugget had room for the air to flow in between them so they would get nice and crispy. I also made some potato wedges to go with them, and lots of my potatoes were sprouting, so I either removed the sprouts or saved some of them to try to plant in the garden. I like to keep the seasoning super simple and just made them with some nutritional yeast and salt and pepper. And then just made sure that it was skin side up so that they would get nice and crispy. I also had to show you guys these strawberry wafers that I used to have all the time in elementary school, and I found a vegan version, which was amazing. Another lunch I had this week was a Malabar parota with some homemade hummus, which I made with some roasted garlic. Apple crisp is definitely one of my all-time favorite desserts, and this version is perfect 2-person serving, made with just 5 ingredients, 4 apples, and it was really perfect for a weeknight because it's nice and quick and easy to make. After assembling all the sliced apples in a bowl, I added my oats, some brown sugar, about 2 tablespoons of gluten-free flour, and coconut oil. And then really the best way to mix it up is to just get in there with your fingers and make those beautiful crispy crumbles that you can then put over the top of your apples. I like to add a little bit extra brown sugar to the apples. It really helps them get nice and soft as they cook. You know it's a good apple crisp when the apples get nice and soft and that topping is crisp and crumbly. It really is soup season, but it's also kind of cold season, and I've been doing my very best to stay healthy, keep away all the colds, all the sickness, and one of the best ways that I've found to do this is to make some really nice soups. As usual, you start out by frying up your aromatics in some olive oil with some salt to bring out all that moisture. I really wanted a nice hearty soup, so I diced my potatoes into nice little cubes so that they would cook quickly, and I just think things taste better when they're in cute little tiny pieces. And a super important part about making soup is all those spices and herbs. So I'm using some turmeric, black pepper, dill. You know, I gotta use some bouillon cubes. And then just let that get nice and toasted up. I also added in some white beans, which get really nice and creamy after they simmer for a while in the broth. I generally don't have the foresight to make beans from dried, so I usually use canned, have to admit. I really just love the convenience of it. I also added in some calendula from my garden, which I dried over the summer, which have a really delicate flavor but have tons of nice antioxidants. And I also added in some kombu, which you might think would make it kind of fishy, but as long as you don't leave it in for too long and you don't let it boil, you can fish it out before it gets fishy, and it will just add a really nice umami element to the dish. I still have plenty of frozen kale left from my garden over the summer, and so I added that in along with some lemon juice to add a little bit of acidity and brightness. With the calendula and the turmeric and the lemon, the soup felt really like a little bowl of sunshine, and it was so nourishing. And I hope you all get a chance to try it and stay happy and healthy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.